Yo, what's up, guys? Let's talk about all of the Siege rounds that I did do in Origin. Once again, we did get Legend. So let's go through round 4, 5, and 6. And I'm allowed to showcase most of the hits. For the finals, I'm allowed to showcase all of the hits. So I'm going to be sharing some of those hidden tactics that we were doing out there. So let's go into the hits. First round that we played was the round 4, where we actually played against Doubt. And I started off with a very interesting one. So I went in with the Tiana on my fastest set, but if you put an Asher on a fastest set, an Asher is actually faster, even though the 24 lead, because Tiana base is absolute ass. So I started off the tournament really bad with a really bad lose. I was like, yeah, that's a horrible start right there. But then again, gotta recover, gotta go on. Went in against the same guy. I did spot that there was 0 will on his whole team. So in that case, I can just go for Zhongshan Lao and then just start CCing them and then do anything after that anyway. And I would say that maybe instead of a Layla, it would have been better if I went for pushback units. But since I already used the Changpong in the previous team, Changpong in this team would actually be a lot better. Because now I still gave them some chance of proccing, being annoying, doing whatevers and whatnots and that kind of stuff, which was probably not the best of ideas, because if I did not land a silence or a stun over there, the S2 that came in from there would have probably been, what would have been that monkey. Layla would not have died. Layla's pretty high on the HP as well, and we had the more on the passive. So I think in the end would have still been fine, but was a little bit tricky on this side as well, I would say. It definitely could have been a lot cleaner. But yeah, in the end, victory is a victory, so hey, you gotta deal with that. Then they had, I think, was one of the strongest defenses out there, which was a Laura Gojo with a Maximilian. In this case, it was actually super slow, and I really did not expect it to be this slow. They had a few different kind of ways of doing this. I guess this was full-on shields to try to be anti-Lucian and whatnot. So in that case, also this additional turn over here, that's where I was like, yeah, I'm off to a rough start with just doing random shits, to be honest. But this is also the round where we expected, oh, this is actually going to be not that hard. Doubt actually put up quite a good fight, so credits to them. They actually did do pretty well. But yeah, in the end, if they just didn't have that much damage. But we're gonna be going into some more wonky fights later on. This is definitely not the wonkiest of fights you will see, because in the end, do you remember that I made that video where I 2v3'd the whole World Guild battle, and people were like, you should do that in Siege? I had one Siege fight that was pretty much 2v3. And you will see why in a bit later. But yeah, in the end, this did come down to a little bit low on HP both sides. We also did get an additional turn on 1 HP once again over here. We did kill here, and then it's Laura against 3 units. But then again, Laura can, of course, do Laura things, which is definitely not done on this fight. Like, you would feel like the fight is kind of done. This pony also didn't do jack shit damage, but I made it a little bit more speedy, so it kind of felt like it could pick up some pace as well. But you know who picks up pace? Laura's annoying pieces of shit. I think that this defense was arguably, I've also seen it in the global meta in the finals. This was, I think, one of the winning defenses in the end in global as well. So this is definitely one of the better defenses out there. And this was also the very first hit we had to do on those. So it had to be a little bit more creative. And when it comes to creativity, most of the time I just smack in a chroma and then it kind of works from there. But in the end, we did win this one though. So that's a good one for an early start. Then a hit I have been using for a good bit. The Light Siri is actually crazy good. Like, I have a really good build on her. It's like 217 extra speed, and then still crit rate 100, and crit damage is on the 4. So in the end, that does a whole good bit of damage. In this case, also, if you bomb that, like, legit, I don't care. Unless you start proccing and then also killing, well, you have to kill both, because in this case, you would go for the putting on the right side first, and then you go for the Siri, and the Siri is the one that would like solo the other 2 units as well. So that's just chill to do. Then a typical Sylvia kind of defense. I think this was actually one of the weaker Sylvia defense I saw in all tournament styles, because I felt like any kind of shape or way, even if you outspeed me, I don't really feel that struggle that it would do a lot. And if you don't outspeed me, then it's super freaking easy, as you see here on the screen. Asa Hot Tower, it's always one of those things, like, is it actually good enough, Asa Hot? It's one of those things where if you go in with a Hey Gang, it definitely doesn't do all too much. In this case, there was actually one issue, and that is if I landed too many debuffs, the debuff of a 3-stack of the Rika doesn't add up in the end, which is kind of like, oops. So yeah, for that reason, it's a little bit more of a tricky fight, because the last 3 debuff of the Rika, yeah, just did not connect, which there was already too many debuffs, but it was all one stack. So that in the end, if everything is this low on HP, it's mostly not that much of an issue. Starting to proc on 1 HP, we love the looks of those things, but from this point on, like, match is already super over, and there's no way of coming back. And that's just the chill thing with dot teams. Dot teams, you just have to land a little bit, and then everything kind of gets cleared. You get TOA harded. It's always one of those things, like, you can build super tanky and then still do a lot of damage. It's always nice. And if you were counting the numbers, those were only 6 hits. 2 more hits were on net forced. Those were Arguous defenses. We have a particular way of clearing that, which the guild lead didn't want to show. One was, once again, clearing that Maximilian. We had a very good offense against that in the end, so they also did not want to showcase that, unfortunately. And then one more, sorry, in the other, like, 2 matches, I'm actually allowed to showcase a lot more. There was another hit that I was also not allowed to showcase, also on the Maximilian defense, but a different one. But yeah, that's it for the Daup one. So I did 9 on 1. Let's go into the next round against Smash Bros. So first hit against Smash Bros. Funny enough, the guild actually wanted me to put up this defense myself, and I was kind of complaining, it's like, yo, this defense is so ass, and I started killing it like 1,000 times with exactly this team. But that was against my own defense preparation, or like doing the preparation the day before. In this case, it went a little different. So I missed the Oblivion over there, therefore this thing does a lot more damage. We already had a proc on the Maximilian. This thing also did go for the proc just now. Which both things not that great. Yeah, and from here, things just kind of went sideways. So we had that going for us. I tried to kill that as bad as possible. Did not do it. Also landed the heal block. So I did not get the healing over here. I did not get the healing from the unit itself in the next hit. Otherwise, after this hit, I would have been able to heal. But he landed all debuffs, he procced, and I lost. Starting off with a lose again. That was quite annoying. So once again, very first hit that I did, I lose. Well, then we had to move on once again, recover from that, see how that works. So I had to fight Gojo with a Nephthys. Wasn't really too fond of this team, mainly because, well, if you just put a shit ton of attack on your Douglas, you're definitely not gonna kill that. Also, it felt with the Tetra Achroma. I think Tetra Achroma would have duoed this team as well. So yeah, this was definitely a super safe hit. I definitely do like to use my Achroma in these low damage, no healing kind of style of teams. If you have an Achroma, definitely do use it. But I would say I use Achroma maybe like 70-80% of the sieges, but it's definitely a unit that I'm always looking out for. It's like, hey, that's an easy target with something like this. Then the next hit, which was actually a pretty particular offense, which was like, I have no clue what this is supposed to do, because even if it outspeeds you, you go in with triple fire. You make sure that this is one of those offenses. You want to have at least 2 out of the 3 units moving, and then you probably clear the whole thing. Like, that is the main goal of this offense. As long as you have 2 out of 3 units moving, which I don't care which combination of the 2 it was, I would have probably cleared the whole field. I would say that a Rika in the 3rd position maybe felt a little bit stronger, but this was super easy. Then fighting the same team again, I went in with a Mugwang, which I think is actually a really bad unit, because you destroy max HP of the enemy, but he doesn't really add too much into it himself. I would have rather seen a Rika on the 1st position over here rather than this unit, or even a Balinus or something like that. Because this unit, it's just like, you feel like, oh, this is enough damage to kill. No, it was actually 1 HP, and then I died. Well, at least that thing on the left died. Like, in the end, it's the cleanup is still decently fine. The recovery it did was not that crazy, but yeah, in the end, that was one of those things. The Mugwang, it would have felt better if I just had a little bit more damage to it, and then I could have went for an insta-clear on it rather than going a little bit back and forth like this. Start healing a little bit, we have to drop an S4. What is S4 on multiple debuffs always does good damage, but then you're dealing damage from the max HP, and dots are dealing damage from the max HP, so your dot is technically nerfed in how much output it has as well. So the destroyed HP looks cool and all, but it's not really that helpful. Then one of my most typical hits that I tend to do, which is the Nephthys into the Chunk Punger, and especially if there's Layla teams which have no, or the Lamila teams which have no fire in there, it just becomes relatively easy to do all of these. So that's definitely one of those ways where it's just, yay, I can just push everything back, do a good bit of damage, even if they're super tanky. Most of the time, this is fairly doable. It's also one of those things where I would recommend your Nephthys to do good damage, Tiana to do good damage, and then it's a lot easier. Which is also a similar hit on this one, Maximilian and the Siana. Only issue is if you miss a lot of death breaks, it could be a thing. But the Sienna is actually nice for, it has the pushback, but it also has a potential for the silence. In this case, did not land either of the silences. But Maximilian has a good bit more damage, especially on enemy max HP. Then it's just a whole bit of good damage over there. So in the end, we do get our pushbacks and this, and then a fast link for debuff, so you get full attack bar again, and then you just clap. Then I had to hit that same team once more. They had a few of those, and this is actually a team that a lot of people in the comment section recommended me. Apparently, it's a really common thing on Global in Europe. I haven't seen it all too much. But especially against these kind of Lamilla teams with double LD, Lamilla double LD feels kind of bad because it opens you up to a lot of like just AoE CC kind of style of things. And that is exactly what we were doing over here. It's just pushing back, going for freezes, going for resets. Even if they were to proc out, which is not possible on a 3-turn freeze, they would have been reset. So it's definitely one of those teams that if you land your stuff, and it is also best if the Homunculus moves in front so you have the backup strip. But yeah, it's just a very safe offense that way. So now into the team that I mentioned as a 2v3. No, wait, no, it's not this one yet. But I think it is on the same hit, but or it's on the same defense, but it's on a different hit later on. So this was just a super safe offense where they don't have that much healing. The monkey, as long as he's alive, he can be super annoying. The Jean on the left is super annoying, especially with the provokes. And then the monkey starts countering on those provokes, and it's just a lot of stuff going in. The pony makes it where a lot of hits don't work. So this is definitely one of those ways to clear a Gojo pretty solid. Unit in the middle could be a bunch of other things as well if they don't have that much damage output. We have seen people also go for like Rileys and stuff in the middle and that kind of good things. But yeah, it's definitely one of those hits that this felt very safe. But I'm going to go in a similar style after this. That is a little bit less safe because I don't have the monkey anymore and I don't have the light pony anymore. So I went for a little bit of a more creative version on that. It was with the Riley though. And that is this hit right here. Also, their team was a little bit different. It was a Triton in there and a Neftis. But big issue. I had a full-on rage Moor with the idea, if I just make them half HP in the first hit, which this Moor can absolutely do. He does about like 6 to 8k without a Death Break kind of style. Or yeah, without Death Break. And he has attack buff. But the big issue is the Triton was Despair. And the Despair Triton instantly stunned my one unit. So that is kind of an issue because then my unit just dies. Yeah. So I was like, guys, this is not going that well. And also we actually had to take this hit relatively fast. So let me speed up the process of how this went. We had a good laugh after this. So the enemy team actually had near to no damage. My units were also pretty darn tanky. You only have to do damage minus dark, so that makes things a lot easier as well. Which I actually was not lazy enough to not put on there. But yeah, the 2v3s, boys. 2v3s in your semi-finals in the Siege tournament. But also the amount of stuns from this Triton. This Triton was definitely on a good track for keeping those stuns in. Heal blocks, of course, very annoying. At some point with Death Breaks, they started doing a good bit of damage as well, especially if you proc like 2-3 times. And yeah, that's definitely... We got to pretty low HP right there. Did proc out on a really good cleanse right there, but then again, he also had his fair share of procs. Riley's still not dead once again. This was a fight where my guildies, when they looked after this, are like, say that was not really safe. I was like, yeah, I did not expect a Triton to instant despair stun the one unit that would have halved HP the whole team and would have made it a lot easier to 2v3, because that was kind of my idea. I 2v3 this with the Gojo pretty much being full dead already, and then I just make a bruiser fight from there, and then it's very doable. As you can see, it was doable. It would have just been easier if my unit would have done that in the first place. Also, this fight was that long that I couldn't record the whole thing, because at some point after, I think, like 100 turns or something, this game just says, like, whoever won, I don't care. So yeah, that's how it won in the end. But yeah, that was definitely an interesting one right there. Then the final hit against Smash Bros was Double Robo. A very much Scribble Bibble approved hit over here, where you just go for double robos, permanent pushback, permanent, everything permanent, where you just take so much additional damage, where the additional damage does a good bit of damage. And then, yeah, you just clear the whole thing, which It's actually funny enough, in the current meta, this team is a lot more usable than you might think. Like, even in the high ranks, we were doing this a fair bit. It was strong. So those are all of the hits against Smash Bros. Once again, going 9-1, so let's go into the finals. Starting off the finals against Aftermath EU, and I want to showcase one thing. So this is the kind of RNG I have to deal with on general basis. So I do Winds of Changes, I go for Curse of the Beautiful, this thing is glanced, and he lands a Despair Stun on a counter. Like, okay, that's pretty low odds, going for a counter Despair Stun while being glanced. But then we go for skill 3 Late Ambush, we go for a counter, we go for Despair Stun while being glanced. I asked an AI how much is the chance of this. That is a 1 in 2,844. Thank you, game. It did not matter anything, but it's just like, what kind of bullshit do I have to deal with on general basis, man? 1 in 2,844. Nice. Next hit, using the Agrius, and this was actually a pretty interesting one. Keep in mind, my Agrius is on crit rate 4. It still had like 111 crit damage, but keep in mind, crit rate 4. Let's check the damage. He has shield sets. I don't know how many shield sets. I think it was a good bit of shield sets, because my Kiara after this barely did any damage. 106k with a crit rate 4. That thing is stupid much damage, man. Holy. So yeah, you actually see the Kiara only does like, I think it was like a 35k after this. This Asher was super hard minus on light, or minus on dark. So therefore did not do as much. Oh no, wait, the shield was already gone. I just did 35k. So okay. I guess that my Kiara build wasn't that crazy good. But the Agrius build was like, I was kind of scared that I wouldn't kill if it was super tanky, but that kind of overkill. Then, as mentioned, one of my typical hits. It kind of depends if I do my Maximilian in this one or I do my Changpong in this one. I actually nearly missed all debuffs on the left unit, whereas the Maximilian is on max accuracy in this case. Always for finals, I go all the way out. Max crit rate, max accuracy, where normally I'm like, whatever my Maximilian is on, I kind of use it kind of style. In this case, I was max accuracy, barely landed shit. Another offense that was actually, for the longest time, my defense was exactly this, with a Zhongsheng Lao being swift. It can also be a fire one. There's definitely the options to it. But yeah, this team is definitely pretty nasty. Once again, we're missing on a Lamilla, which is not really that great. So we do get a provoke thing in here. But we still cycle that many things, and we have the chance for the spread. If you spread, you get a lot of attack bar gain again. So there's a lot of back and forth. Plus, the monkey is on pretty decent damage as well, which you did see in that S2 right there. And yeah, that just makes it where this team in general sense is just pretty darn strong. This team is definitely something that can pack a punch, can do a good bit of damage. Even if the Lamilla were to S2 in this position, it would definitely not kill these, because they're also pretty darn tanky itself. So yep, solid offense hit that I like to use. Then one of our special techs, we had Sylvias, of course, on the enemy side, and the Sylvias were next to pushback units. But do you remember, I think it was 2 seasons ago, or maybe it was 4 seasons ago, I don't remember which one. We got Legend, and people says like, yeah, you guys only got Legend because of Onyx. Onyx didn't die, and you smashed Onyx level 1 into about everything. Well, let me tell you the rune set that we now have on this Cynthia on the right side. It is triple enhance with 0 speed and 0 resistance. If you put it on 0 resistance and it permanently gets pushed back, it never dies. So we nerfed Onyx to kind of get back a new Onyx-ish with a different element. This is kind of what we're looking at. So even the Venthan proccing enough to getting the stun in on himself still made it where, like, yeah, this thing could proc all he want. Like, this was just, he was not able to clear this at all. So yeah, this is one of those units that we're gonna be saving more of, because this unit is just hella stupid. The thing was, we only had pretty much 1 each in the guild, because we did not really figure out that we had, that it was that crazy good, and it's pretty new, so you don't have that many pulled off, or chance to pull them off just yet. But yeah, that was definitely a pretty offense where we will use this more often, especially against Venthan. If the Venthan doesn't have anything next to it which can kill a Chow, then this was like, there was no way of dying on this one. The only issue is at some point we kind of ran out of the Cynthia. So I did make the video about showcasing the arcane weapons yesterday, funny enough. Yeah, this team was, maybe, it was not really showcased in there, but it was kind of showcased. It was also double water plus a Cynthia, and then I was using Lamilla plus a Annabelle. But in this case, this is of course a lot safer, because the Chow, you just go super tanky on it. And you have the enhanced runes from everything, and it's just super easy this way. Then another one of those hits where it's just Lamila plus LD. In this case, there is a Joe gun next to it. So the Joe gun kind of makes it where it's just... You cannot really go for the double robo as much. It's still possible to go double robo Tyrone kind of style. But in most cases, this just makes it a little bit easier. We have 3-turn freezes across the board. Like, what are you going to do? Well, proc out of a 3-turn freeze? Like, I don't think that is possible. And I'm fairly certain that is not possible. Because you can't even proc out of a 2-turn. But also, if you were to proc out, you still have your reset because of the unbalanced field. We were actually talking about Homunculus in RTA. That would be... interesting. And going back to one of my favorite siege units, the Light Series out there. Light Series for this one was also very good because you also had the right elements on the opponent's side where one will always hit the Jemire, the other one will always hit the pudding. And then you can just go for insane damage on your Series, and Series just gonna hella clap things. Like this thing is doing like casual 60Ks plus 2 hits of like 6K on top of that. Even the skill 1 by this point, like that. What the hell is that damage? Then, funny enough, actually, Aftermath EU made a switch on net 4 defenses, and they went to the defense that got us Legend back in Doubt. So this was the defense that I actually crafted back in Doubt, and this was by far the strongest defense at that time. I actually completely wasted my S2 over there because I was talking to other people that they should use this instead of the other team that we had in mind. But yeah, the main thing is you just want the Mirror on the opponent's side killing itself. That's just really the main thing. You want the Mirror killing itself. I kind of had a bad rotation because I wasted that S2 and I was like, oh, this actually gets a little more tricky. We had a few losers against this until people... it was also mainly people went in with kind of bad builds. This was also a semi-bad build. I did hit this again, so I actually had to make a second Jilton for this. But I was like, yeah, let me actually showcase you that how this is supposed to work. Because this was also the best counter that we found against it at that time. Which, when we were fighting, or when we used it in Doubt, which is already like 3 years ago, 2 years ago. It's been quite a while. There were a few things a little bit different. The Windy was still buffed. The Mirror was not buffed yet. So... those are two different kind of things, which make it pretty interesting. It's also one of those things, you did not have that many 28 leads to outspeed it at that time. Because right now you could outspeed it with a Fiona, or you could outspeed it with like a bunch of other things. It's definitely possibilities out there. Then one hit that I actually cannot show because I had to save it and then let someone go over me, and therefore there's no replay on it. But the main thing is you use the Siri to snipe out the Sylvia. And then I died to these two. So I had 100 res super tanky Platy, and this Platy was actually slow and super tanky. This thing, on its first turn, stripped it. Even though there were 4 buffs on it because you had the shield, attack buff, speed buff, and the will on it. Then this one stripped it on the first hit. Armor broke it in the second hit after a proc. Then this thing went for 2 skill 2s in 1 turn. Yeah, that means that you pretty much die to add damage no matter that you put 15k HP extra on this unit. And this one was on a death break, which was 100 res. And it was pushed back all the way to 0 ATB, and then I died. So yeah, that was... if this thing goes 2 times an S2 in 1 rotation against this team, you're dead. If I would have had more Cynthias, though, this thing could have had like 6 rotations of S2 in 1 turn. It would have been totally fine, but no, this thing proc like the living shit on me. But yeah, that's also the game. That happens sometimes. And then the final hit against Aftermath EU, which was actually the proper version of this team, where you do go for a way more tanky version. You use the Triana S2 at the right moment. And then it's just like, you just see like the amount of damage I'm doing with this Jilton. It's just triple HP. Every slot has flat HP that is possible. It's like plus 52k HP or something like that, or 53k HP. It's a lot of HP sitting in there. And yeah, the team on the other side is just, it's legitimately just killing itself. Like, that's just additional turn, damage on myself. Let me do the S2, let's give everyone crit rate, and then S1, killing itself. So yeah, that is actually how this team is supposed to work. It's like, yay, killing itself. So that is the main counter on that. It was definitely funny to see that team coming back at me once again. We also did try to run it for ourselves for a little bit. Did not really rock up that many successes, but it was fun to see this team coming back to life a little bit. Whereas I was the original maker of this team. I think that this is the only Siege defense that I can claim I was the original maker of. So that makes it once again a 9-on-1. So I was at least very consistent 9-on-1 in our first round, 9-on-1 on the second round. and 9-1 on the third round. For my defense successes, however, my Zhongxing Lao defense, I think, took a victory in all of the 3 rounds. And outside of that, I did not really get any defense successes that much. I don't have a Fiona, I don't have the Dark Siri, so I did not really participate that much on the net force. So for me, my main defense were either a Maximilian style or a Nefty style, but those are kind of figured out as well. You saw that how I cleared those. So it's mainly the defenses that were doing good was some kind of Zhongxing Lao shenanigans that I showcased with like the Layla or something with the Lamila or anything like that. So that is for the Siege tournament. Once again, Origin is a legend. We have 3 legends in a row right now. If we get the next legend, we will be the only server or the only guild in Europe server that has 4 in a row. Because now we're tied with Aftermath EU that has 3 in a row. So we're going to go for 4 in a row on the next one. This was a hat trick. Guys, thanks a lot for watching. And see you as always in the next one. Oh, and by the way, if you're watching it today on the release, I'm going to be summoning all of the stuff that we get from this, plus the Temple of Chaos, plus whatever we all get before the Arena Rush of today. So if you're watching it on the Sunday, see you there on stream. Thanks for watching. If you would like to see more guides, join the Discord and check out the content tab for the guide video archive, which contains all of the guides that you might need. Hope to see you there.